Well, it's been about 2 weeks since I started sharing some thoughts on this platform about what's going on in the world, what I'm seeing, and my training as an academic and my background in prison mission work. And part of what I'm seeing is there is a general disconnect in society between people who disagree. And it's really a shame because some of the smartest people you'll ever meet are people that you disagree with. If you don't know how to talk civilly, with civility, with those that with whom you disagree, you're just missing out on a really rich experience in this world. Your lifetime, if all you ever spend time around are people who agree with you, then all you're doing is reinforcing who you are. It's kind of like in audio. I've been loosely related with the pro audio industry for about 30 some odd years, and with recording and performance. And in audio, there's a thing that happens called a feedback loop. And if you've ever been at a concert or in some kind of meeting house and somebody gets up to the microphone and they start to speak, and all of a sudden there's just this piercing, horrible, terrible sounding howl that's happening. What's happening is sound has come out of the speaker and into the microphone. Actually, it starts going into the microphone and then it comes out of the speaker and then it goes back into the microphone, and it happens so rapidly that it's as though all that's happening is that sound system of huge power. All it's doing is it's feeding itself, and it starts to howl and it becomes unbearable to be around until somebody stops it, somebody silences it. I think that's happening in society, where you have people groups who are only hearing themselves. They're only listening to themselves. And as they speak, all they want to hear is a reinforcement of themselves. And when that happens, there's, for those who are not as interested in that thought, or those who have not developed a palate for different opinions, it just becomes a unbearable to be around howling. Now, in audio, there's a neat little trick. You can take and you can put about 7 milliseconds of pause between that microphone and that speaker. Now, 7 milliseconds is really quick. It's just a super quick pause. It's actually undiscernible to the ear. It's just so quick. And that pause in sound stops the feedback loop. I think if we as a people would learn how to hear something and not just start repeating it, but actually have just the slightest bit of thought in there between what we hear and what we think, between stimulus and response. And if we can increase that pause longer and longer and truly think about what is it that this person means when they say this phrase that has become so politically charged, has become so offensive to some people's sensibilities. What is it that they really mean? And when we live with a larger pause in our thought process, it helps us to be charitable towards those who disagree with us, because we're giving them the benefit of the doubt. We're saying, okay, there's something that's being said here that I don't understand, that this other human being believes deeply and passionately about. And maybe there's something to it. I mean, maybe there's not, but maybe there is. And maybe if I can just think about it for a minute and ask myself, what is it about this that makes so much sense to this other person? I don't get it. I mean, I don't understand why some people take the stands that they take. They seem anti-human to me. They seem anti societal. They seem anti self. And I don't understand a world that makes sense where we're not loving our neighbors as if we are our neighbors. I don't understand that world. And our neighbors can be our neighbors from our past or our future or our present. They can be literal neighbors who live literally next door to us in a house one over or two over, or they can be our neighbors who are halfway around the world. They can be our neighbors that agree with us, that we would feel comfortable sitting down at a table and breaking bread together. Or they can be those neighbors that when we see them on the street or at the store and they come up behind us, we feel like we need to shift so that we can keep our periphery on them and that we can keep an eye on what they may or may not do. Our neighbors deserve us to put some pause between the stimulus that they are to us by their agreement or disagreement with what we are already thinking and our response towards them. Humans deserve to think about the positions that other humans take on a wide variety of matters. And I feel like we have closed that gap so much into automatic responses that all we're doing is howling at each other. And that's robbing us of a rich relationship. You know, part of what makes for a really good concert is that there are different voices, different textures, different rhythms going on. It's not all just the same howling sound. Now, I like Howlin' Wolf, but that's another conversation completely. Take some time today to think about the things that you disagree with. It'll teach you a lot about yourself. And there's a way to think about what others are saying that doesn't involve you having to be right, but just taking on a little bit of attitude that says, I'm really curious how someone else believes what they believe and why they believe it. And I want to understand it. I don't have to believe it too, but I want to understand it before I just knee-jerk reaction start howling at somebody else like a mad dog. And I think if we'll do that, if we'll put a little bit of pause between the stimulus of someone who's disagreeing with us or agreeing with us and the response of wanting to retaliate or reinforce what it is that's going on, I think if we put that pause there, we'll find that we have a much broader agreement with people, much more in common with people than what we're led to believe. That's a whole nother conversation too. I hope you have a great morning. Think about the things that are going on around you. Ask, why does this make sense to somebody else? And see if the world doesn't open up and become a little richer place for you. Love you. Hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to visiting with you again soon.